Welcome back from that report. Thanks for still being there. As we move on now to the discussion segment of the show, before I introduce you to our guest for the day, we are talking or taking a look at oil theft in Nigeria. Now, the twin problem of oil theft and pipeline vandalism is a basic problem Nigeria faces, and analysts have continued to say that some of the hemorrhage we're having in our economy can be traced to these twin problems that we experience as a nation. In 2022, according to report, Nigeria lost a whopping 10 billion US dollars to oil theft in the nation. To discuss or push this further today, we shall be taking a look at crude oil theft, black market, and illegal refineries consequences or effect on Nigeria's economy. To help us discuss or understand the situation this morning is Dr. Edgar Amuho, who is now a friend to the House. He is a lecturer as well as a social analyst. Dr. Amuho Edgar has an MBA degree in addition to a PhD in chemistry. He is a former HOD, Chemistry Department at DMA Federal University of Education here in Ondo City. It's so nice to have you on Daybreak Africa again.
You're welcome back. Good morning.
Good morning. So it is important that we take a look at the emerging issues in the oil sector. Ironically, you were here a couple of days ago as we were talking about the pump price, the review of pump price of fuel, and a lot was said on that particular day. And we did promise our audience that we shall be bringing this topic and having you come dissect it again, giving us your might of knowledge on the situation. We have a new statistics for 2024, but I would want us to begin not too far away, to the extent that in 2022, according to analysis, Nigeria lost as much as 10 billion US dollars, if my statistics or investigation is right. I would want us to begin from there as to take a look at the effect of black marketeering and of course illegal refineries in on the oil industry.
Thank you so much, ma. I find this topic today also very exciting and interesting because as a Nigerian like you, oil is our mainstay in this country. It probably provides about 90% of our GDP. And so anything that has to undermine the oil industry, petroleum specifically, is a big threat to our collective existence. Let me begin this way, that Nigeria as a country has a technical capacity to bring from the ground 2.3 million barrels of crude oil. There are companies that are bringing this oil from the ground: Shell, Mobil, Chevron, and perhaps Agip. These are the companies that have licenses to bring this oil from the ground. Installed capacity, technically, we can get 2.3 million barrels a day. But it will shock you that just 2 days ago, we were told that what Nigeria is producing on a daily basis is 1.4 million barrels. By implication, 900,000 barrels of crude oil that we are supposed to get, we are not getting it. Now, if we look at it further, where has that 900,000 barrels, where has it gone to? Yes. Is it that the companies have not been able to produce it, or it's been diverted, it's been stolen, And what gets to the federal government is 1.4. That is a perspective which I want you to look at it. Number two, we produce crude oil like other countries produce crude oil. And because we as a country export our crude oil, we are members, registered members of OPEC. OPEC is an organization of oil exporting countries. We are a member. And it is not just that anything we produce we can sell. No. OPEC regulates the market. Regulating the market in such a way that, okay, Nigeria, this is the quantity you can sell per day. Venezuela, this is how much you can sell. Egypt, this is how much you can sell. And so on and so forth. So Nigeria has been given a quota of 1.5 million barrels, which Nigeria can sell, can export as at today. That is the daily income from oil that we expect to get. So, for instance, if I project it further, you will see that if we were, for instance, to produce 2 million barrels daily, then Nigeria will have a surplus of 500,000 barrels. I'm sure you agree that much with me. That 500,000 is just the quantity of crude oil that Dangote needs to run his refinery. Now, to make matters worse, if OPEC gives us a quota of 1.5 million and the country only gets 1.4 million, then there is a shortage of 100,000 barrels. Where is Dangote going to get the crude oil? Now, the Punch as at today, which I am holding, if you look at page 33 of it, is saying that the presidency should declare emergency on crude oil, especially as it affects the Dangote refinery. The refinery has taken off, but we have not been told it has taken off in full gear. What is really holding it? Availability of crude oil is one of those issues. And as at last week, Dangote himself came out to say that he's expecting a shipment of 21 million barrels of crude oil from the United States. That is very damning. Now, if he's expecting that quantity of crude oil from the United States, it means Dangote refinery is paying for that crude oil in dollars.
Which is going out of the country.
Yes, which is going out of the country. Good. Now, if he's buying the crude oil in dollars, you will expect that after he refines the crude oil, he will sell the refined products to Nigerians at a dollar price. One angle. Number two angle, for instance, Nigeria has the crude oil to give to Dangote. Will Nigeria sell the crude oil to Dangote at naira value or at dollar? But as it is now, the crude oil is not even there. So, let's look at the other side of the story. Oil thefts. Yes. I have told you that there are some companies that are exploiting this oil. That is the real terminology, to exploit from the ground.
Not to explore.
Yes. Explore is to look for the oil. Where is it? That is exploration. Then to exploit is the real harvesting of the oil. Now, these companies, for instance, whatever they bring from the ground, they have to store in tanks. Just like you fetch water from the well with your bucket, you have to put somewhere for storage. These storage places are what we refer to as the tank farms. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, it is from these tank farms that the crude oil is exported outside the country. Let me mention some for you. You've heard of the Bonny Export Terminal. That is in Rivers State. Bonny's, little of creeks and Ireland. So they have a super jetty there that crude oil is exported. I think Shell owns that export terminal. The second one, probably in your own locality, Escravos. Okay? That one is owned by Chevron. And then another one is in Forcados, Delta State also. That one is owned, I should also think, by Chevron. Then there is the third one, which is more or less between the boundary between Delta and Bayelsa, which they call the Odudu Export Terminal. And then perhaps the largest, biggest of them all is the one they call Kwa Ibo Terminal. It's in Akwa Ibom State, okay? And that is owned by Mobil. Because most of Mobil exploitation of oil is offshore, not on land. So let's come back. Since we have this scenario of where the crude oil is stored, where is the oil being stolen? Is it possible that from the point they are bringing it from the ground, some people are going there to buy? Or at the point where the crude oil is being exported, some of it is not going to the export channel, but going to the back channel? I think the security agencies.
Now, it's ironic that this has to come up, because while I was doing the research, I discovered three things which are based on the three questions that you've asked right now. The Nigerian Navy has informed, that is those in charge of the maritime architecture of Nigeria, that they've discovered illegal pipelines going for as long as 4 kilometers to divert and steal and divert crude oil. Then again, it was discovered that personnel or workers within this establishment, these oil companies that you've mentioned, were also fingered as those who actually work with these locals to actually divert fuel to illegal refineries that we have. Like the question, I know the imagination is, as you rightly pointed out, all these places where crude is stored, there is no way it's going to go into the air, or you use black magic to conjure the oil to the illegal refineries or the black marketers. So they need people on ground to actually aid in stealing the fuel. And I think that is the answer that I got while trying to find, to answer the question that you just asked now, because it came up.
Very good, ma. Thank you so much. So I was almost leading to that point. Probably a year or 2 years before Buhari left office, he made a lot of alarm on the quantity of crude oil that is stolen from Nigeria daily. So like you said, if this crude oil is in custody of some people, the crude oil didn't just go into the air. There is collusion.
But sorry to cut you then. The third one I discovered was, of course, vandalized pipelines. So we have 3 vandalized pipelines, illegal pipeline construction running into kilometers, and of course personnel working in the oil companies who are cohorts with locals to actually refine through the black market to Nigerians.
Yeah, sure. We will look at the issue of pipeline vandalization after we have looked at this sector.
Please go ahead.
Yes. So the issue of collusion, like I said, between the people who the crude oil is in their custody and the dubious buyers, you cannot rule that out. Now, if this pattern has been going on for a long time, administratively, one will want to make some reshufflement in those areas.
But this has gone on for decades.
It's gone on for decades. So if the admin aspect of it is not put in place, then the issue will continue to go ahead. Now, illegal refineries, the refinery is illegal because it didn't apply for a license. The federal government did not issue a license to those people to refine petrol. So if you were not issued a license to refine petrol, where are you going to get the crude? It's something you are doing in secret. So you have to steal it somewhere. So like you said, I've been aware of, let's say, pipelines that have been traced to some illegal refineries. These things are happening in the country. And only recently, to probably last year, one of them exploded, in which several lives were lost. Now, a refinery is a very delicate engineering. I am sure you probably will be surprised that even the new Dangote refinery, probably about 3 weeks ago, there was fire.
Yes, unconfirmed.
Yes.
It was hushed.
Yes.
It was, I think it was last
Yes.
week, early last week
Yes.
that it happened.
Yes.
But
So-
it was hushed up, and well, I'm saying hushed up
Yes.
because we do not have a confirmatory statement concerning that incident happening. But it was reported that there was a fire incident there.
There was. I think I even saw some of the pictures, of what happened. So the point I was trying to make is a refinery is a very delicate factory to run, and one has to be very careful. So most times it beats my imagination how these people with illegal refineries, how are they able to cope? Now, in our last discussion, I told you that one of the products that you get from refining of petroleum is gas. Obviously, these illegal refineries will not be able to contain that gas, because most times fires result from refineries. It is that aspect, very flammable. So all of that, I believe,
Goes to the air.
Yeah, as waste for their own safety too. Not only that, the aspect of illegal refineries. What is the origin? They say necessity is
a
the
mother of
mother of invention. If, for instance, there was no petrol scarcity, no diesel scarcity, no kerosene scarcity in Nigeria, and that the normal mainstream refineries are working, and the country is surfeited with fuel, I don't think anybody will look at venturing into illegal refineries as profitable, neither as a business worth consideration. So the scarcity of petroleum products all over the years have been able to drive or lure people into this kind of
illegal business.
Yes, illegal and illicit trade. Like I said when I started, I said that crude oil was very vital to the existence of Nigeria as a country. My summation, therefore, is anybody that is dealing illegally with Nigerian crude oil is on the path of economic sabotage to this country. And as a matter of fact, the federal government must not treat the issue with kid gloves. Yeah.
Now, whereas the oil quota allocated to Nigeria by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, in 2024 is 1.58 million barrels per day, with a federal budget benchmark of 1.78 million barrels per day, Nigeria is still far from meeting this target, and the situation is set to disrupt budgetary allocation. Now, this confirms what you said earlier by the allocation by OPEC and Nigeria not being able to meet the targets given to us as a nation. And again, the fact that you actually allowed us know that about 90 to 99% of of our existence is tied to the back of crude oil, even though once upon a time the nation did not start that way, because we had agriculture as our mainstay before the discovery at Oloibiri, which has turned or that is supposed to be a blessing, some are saying, has become like a curse to us. Oil is supposed, the discovery of oil is supposed to be a blessing to us as a people. This, like I told a guest yesterday, to me, despite the challenges that we face, Nigeria is the greatest nation in the world. There is no place where you have this number of people, intelligent, strong. There is no place where you get the resources, natural resources that we have in one place as a nation. And of course, we're blessed with oil. But unfortunately, we are here talking about issues like this. Now, these two, as the fact that Nigeria cannot meet the oil allocation is set to affect or disrupt budgetary allocation. I really want you to take a look at that. That at this time, 2024, we are still stuck on oil, despite all the problems it brings, and everything rises or seem to rise and fall with it.
Oh yes. Since you have brought up this topic, linking it with budget and everything, let's look at it this way. South Africa, as a country, does not have a drop of oil. Are you aware of that? South Africa imports about 186,000 barrels of crude oil every day to run their refineries. Where is South Africa getting money to import the crude oil? That is a question you should ask yourself. South Africa is blessed with minerals. When we talk of minerals, you divide them into two: solid minerals and liquid mineral, in which crude oil is the liquid mineral. All others are solid minerals. Okay? South Africa is blessed with diamonds, blessed with copper, blessed with gold, and several others which I will not go into now. Like I said before, that 90% of our mainstay income coming into the budget of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is coming from crude oil. A budget is simply a statement of income and expenditure for a specific period of time, usually 1 year. I have had opportunities to look at the income of the federal government of Nigeria in some of the budgets. Crude oil, yes. Exportation of gas, LNG, yes. Revenue from the custom, yes. Revenue from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, that is taxes and this, yes. Note, I have not seen anywhere where there is revenue from the solid mineral sector.
For Nigeria?
Yes.
Despite the quantum.
Good. Now, you probably would also have heard that the solid minerals in the north, they are refined illegally without due licensing from the adequate ministry, and the proceeds thereof are flown out of the country. You probably have not heard or read anything about that.
No, it's on the news.
Good.
It's on the news.
Good. So what I'm trying to tell you is the theft of crude oil, a palliative for those people. So like I was saying that the federal government to look at the South African example, to say that South Africa is surviving on solid minerals. Where is the revenue from our solid minerals in Nigeria? That ministry is probably just existing by name because we are not seeing the impact. Nigeria is the 11th largest oil producing country in the world. China is number 15 in the world. Australia is number 38 in the world. Do you know one thing, man? Even the oil China produces is not enough for them because of their massive population. Rather, all the wealth, all the sophistication of China today is from the solid minerals that God gave to them. China has the largest reserves of solid minerals in the world, followed by Russia and followed by Australia. So what I'm trying to say here is we have not actually looked at our resources properly and harness them. As at last week, it was reported that Nigerian oil reserves, that is the ones they have discovered, they amount to about 37 billion liters of crude oil, which is in different locations. I know, as a scientist, also as a chemist, who know about solid minerals, where you mine minerals is a mine. Abi? Where you mine gold is a gold mine. Where you mine diamond is a diamond mine. There are so many mines all over the world, from Chile to Australia to Mexico, that there is nothing there again. When they exhaust everything there,
They move on.
they move on. So what I'm trying to say is we have to take advantage of this revenue that is available
Now.
to the country, because who knows for how many years sometimes that crude oil may not be there. The world is leaving us behind. Note, fuels, kerosene, petrol, diesel, they are givers of energy. Are you with me? These days, can you feel the impact of solar energy? The same thing that petrol is using to drive generators and this, the sun is giving it to us. And it challenged so many scientists all over the world that for millions of years, the sun has been giving energy, wasting, and we fail to tap it. The world is waking up to that realization today. And you'll be surprised that China has invested so much on it.
In fact, we've heard that China is about creating its own sun. That's important. How important solar energy is, but there's so much scare about that. We're not talking about that right now. But you did say something that I really want us to go back to, just based on your last discussion.
Okay.
When you talked about solid minerals in the north, and of course the fact that we're talking about illegal refineries down where we come from. Now, this is my opinion based on certain research. It is not the opinion of my company. Now, there's this argument that the people of the Niger Delta who are actually involved in the illegal refining of crude oil feel that they are not wrong. They are not doing anything wrong because this the crude is found on their land, and it is said that it is finders keepers, but unfortunately it is not the situation in Nigeria. And they've also argued with the fact that solid minerals in the north is not given the attention that the crude or it deserves, as the beam is in the Niger Delta, where crude oil is monitored, and of course we know the amount of lives that have been lost. The same thing led to the restiveness in the Niger Delta, where we had people like Tom Polo and what's his name, the Asari Dokubos of the Niger Delta, and the Niger Delta youth, the situation with the Niger Delta youth that led to kidnapping and also the bombing of pipelines because of the agitation and the belief that this oil was found in their father or motherland or in their backyards, they should own it. So I want your reaction on the fact that those who run the illegal refineries at the end of the day are saying, you know what, we are not doing anything wrong. If the mines or the cannot be monitored in the south, and there's no written statistics to see the quantity or the amount that is being mined daily, they should be left alone to continue to refine crude because it belongs to them. I want your reaction, especially in court as a Niger Delta person.
Let me react, and I am going to be very frank as my usual self. Mineral resources, by the agreement under our constitution, they don't necessarily belong to the people where they reside. Are you with me? The federal government is in control. What the indigenes of that part of the country are entitled to is some negotiations which the federal government gives to them by way of derivation. I'm sure you know that, that the oil producing areas, they get about 13% of the national budget by way of derivation. Whatever we get from your area, we give you 13% of it. So the issue is actually with our state governors in the Niger Delta. That money, that 13%, it is not well utilized. If it is well utilized, our youths will not be restive. Our youths will find something to do. Look at this. How many illegal refineries there are? How many? Well, let's even say there are about 40 of them in the Niger Delta. Let's say that. 10 people probably working on an illegal refinery. It's a drum they are using to cook the times 40. How much is that? 400. Ma, are you aware that a typical refinery, like the Warri refinery where I worked, it employed 2,000 staff. My ID card number was 2,100 and something. Therefore, what I'm saying is, probably with just one additional refinery in the Niger Delta, all those people would have been absorbed, in which they have a meaningful job, which they can live from and retire from.
We'll have to hold that thought because we've been told that we need to go on a break. But when we return, I want to assure you that our guest is still here. Welcome back. Okay, so we're back to our discussion in the studio, and our guest is still here as we take a look at oil theft, the effect of black market and illegal refinery on the Nigerian economy. And our guest, Dr. Amuho, is still here. Before we went on the break, it was actually telling us or reacting to the question that I asked about illegal mining of minerals in the north, and of course the Niger Deltans who refine oil illegally, claiming that the oil again belongs to them and they're not doing anything wrong. If the federal government puts the beam on the Niger Delta, they should do the same in the northern part of the country, as the same illegality is happening there. So I want you to continue with your line of thoughts.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ma. So I think the last thing I said was, if only there could have been one extra refinery in the Niger Delta, that it will absorb. Are you with me? The agitation that time that led to restiveness, Niger Delta militants and the rest of them, I want to commend President Musa Yar'Adua. The way he handled it was a master stroke. And that was when amnesty was granted. The amnesty provided opportunity for so many of our youths who are willing. They were taken out of the country. Most of them were sponsored to universities within the country and Africa to learn something, to learn a trade. One question I want to ask, what is the state of that amnesty as at today? Because it appears as if we hardly hear anything about it on the TV or read about it. It would be instructive for the current president to revisit that issue, especially if he wants to continue to benefit from the revenue accruing from crude oil. He must not overlook that aspect. Okay? So, like I earlier on said, the theft of crude oil from the jetties, the export terminal, is the one that is really massive. And you may ask me why. These illegal refineries you are talking about, how much of crude oil can they refine a day? How much? Imagine a whole Warri refinery, as giant as it is, 100,000 barrels a day. Even when we were there, maybe 75,000. Not to talk of this quasi refinery. All of them put together, I am not sure they can handle. I'm not sure they can handle 10,000 barrels. Look at the one they are building in Edo now, a whole refinery, 10,000 barrels. So all these quasi refineries, how much crude oil can they steal?
But what about collectively, by the collective number, by the time you put all of it together, because you made the mathematics, you made it, you estimated 40, you times, and you got 400, or
yes.
is it 400,000?
400.
400.
Yes.
But by the time you bunch all this together, don't you think the dent can still be felt?
No. That's what I'm trying to say. I say if a whole refinery they are building in Edo, you've not visited it. I have been there. A sizable refinery, all it can handle is just 10,000 barrels. Not to talk of this quasi refinery, which may not be bigger than this, your studio. How much can it handle? Can it handle 1,000 barrels of crude oil? So if it's 1,000 and they have 40, how many is that? A paltry 40,000 barrels. What I'm trying to tell you, if there is a loss of about 400,000 barrels of crude oil a day, it is not from the it's negligent. Yeah, it is from the export terminals. It is from the export terminal. Let the security agencies look at it very well. Let me tell you, when you drive into a filling station, you want to buy fuel. How much? You tell them the amount. They press the pump. There's what we call a totalizer. You'll be seeing it reading. At the end of the day, so many liters for so much. Export of crude oil that is exported from every terminal in Nigeria is supposed to go through the same totalizer.
But we don't have it.
We have. We have.
So what's the problem?
Totalizers are interesting. As the liquid is flowing through it, it's clocking the quantity. But listen to me. Totalizers are machines, just like human beings.
So
We fall sick. Sometimes they break down. And when they break down, you have to maintain them. And that process of maintaining them, there is a bypass.
Wow.
Yeah. The sales must continue.
So sorry to cut you. Can we equate that to what happens in filling station where there's this it is alleged that the pumps are tampered with because sometimes when I've had situation where people go to buy and the liter does not correspond with the price being paid, and there are lots of arguments, and believe me, I've heard a situation where the filling station had to fill the jerry can because the person who bought raised an alarm. So are you saying we could equate that situation to the totalizer at the depot or at the point of sale?
No, ma.
Okay.
Not
that type.
Yes, they are not that type.
Okay.
I will come to this latter one you raised. I was trying to tell you that when a totalizer is being maintained, maybe for service, there is a bypass for every totalizer.
So whatever is being done
yes.
is
only
at that time.
At that time. Now, whatever is passing now, no account.
No account.
No account. So at that point, anything
can
goes
happen.
Good. Can we do it this way? I discussed with a German engineer somewhere in one factory where I worked. He came to do some work, and after he did the job, I asked him, he was about flying back to Germany, why do you think this thing happened? He said, yeah, pressure leads to explosion. I said, yes. What causes the pressure? He said, that's it. The too much air entered the place. Why did too much air enter? Because the valve that was supposed to hold that air is faulty. And so it passed more than enough And the equipment exploded. So I now asked him, can you put 2 of those valves? Can you put 2 of them
What did he say?
in the line? So that if one is malfunctioning, the other one regulates. He looked at me. He saw wisdom in what I was saying. Yes, they are there. They are technicians. White men, most of them didn't have university education, technical. But what they can do will amaze you. Export terminals, federal government, go and monitor them. You can have 2 or 3 totalizers. We put them in parallel. Are you with me? If this one have fault, let it go through that one. If that one have fault, let it go through that one. It is
export terminals is where the focus should be more.
That is where the focus
than the illegal refineries.
Than the illegal refineries.
Because when you combine all the illegal refineries together, the output is negligible compared to the humongous amount of theft that Nigerians are experiencing in that sector. I have a statistic that says from the production of over 2 million barrels per day in 2019, the country is struggling to raise output to 1.3 million barrels per day, a figure that is seen as a massive improvement, given that in the last quarter of 2022, production fell to as low as 900,000 barrels per day. This is the statistics that we have. But let's take a look at the fact that aside spending about 50 billion naira yearly in just one of the local security contractors, there's also Joint Task Force, JTF, Operation Delta Force, contracted to monitor, because let's begin to look at surveillance inside all the statistics that we've talked about. Apart from JTF Operation Delta, we have other forces in charge of monitoring, that is in charge of surveillance. We have the armed forces, all armed forces. We have the Federal Road Safety Corps. We also have Nigerian Navy, which is Operation Delta Sanity. Now, the conclusion is, despite all this security architecture, there's still no improvement. So I want your own opinion. Do you think that despite all this security architecture in place, the federal government is winning this battle, even though you've suggested where the beam should be not too much on the illegal refineries or the black marketeers, but they should take an inward look at the point of sale of export. So do you think that they're winning the battle at all with all this? We're talking huge amount allocated. Of course, the name Tom Polo always comes up when you talk about securing the pipeline, as it were. So I want your reaction. Are we doing what we should do? Is the federal government making any headway? And if they're not, what should they do, in your opinion, beside the touchlight that you said they should beam at that particular point?
Well, let me begin by saying this. All of us as citizens of this country, no matter how bad some people say the country is, it is also very good to others. But one thing that we owe our country is patriotism. We owe it to ourselves. Okay? If you have joint task force, probably made up of, because this is joint, maybe the army, the navy, the police, the local vigilante, policing the waterways and this. Yet, the thing is not a bad thing, like you said. The stealing is sustained, reported almost every day as losses. So what is happening? Are those joint surveillance group, are they effective? Then my answer is no. Why are they not effective? Could there have been compromise? The answer is also yes. So like I said initially, don't keep the same personnel in the same place
for too long.
For too long. We have had we have all, from the televisions, we have read from newspapers several times, people pointing fingers at the top brass in the military, the Navy, that they are more or less complicit in this thing. I don't have any evidence, but I think the president is the commander-in-chief. Yes. If he wants this country to survive, he wants this country to grow, he should look at this area. Like I was trying to say that, like mines, crude oil can get finished one day. Now that we have some income coming into the country, can we plow it very reasonably in other areas? So perhaps 50 years, 100 years, if the crude oil finish, next generation, our children, they have something.
Do you think we're making plans like that? Do you think the Nigerian government has this foresight in place for the future to make sure that we preserve or make plans that if probably one morning we wake up, there's no crude oil, what would the country do? Is there any foresight towards this in the nation?
Excuse me, ma. I think that is one of the reasons why you have these programs. So these thoughts that we are marshalling out now is going to go on TV. Yes or no?
Yes.
You can keep playing it and play on and on.
On and on.
Yes. Maybe for the next week, anytime you have an opportunity, slot it in. I think the idea is to create awareness. If, for instance, you have leaders, a president who does not listen to TV, some don't even read newspapers, then how will he have a feel of what is going on outside?
They have aides. They have points.
The aides, most of them will not want to tell them bad news. And I think we've had experiences like that. They are likely to go.
What is bad news? The truth?
The truth is bad news. Yes, that is what I'm saying. The truth.
But that is why they were employed.
Don't you know the truth? The truth is bitter.
That is why they're there. You know. So in the first place, now it's interesting that we're talking about the future, but what happens in the present is what determines the outcome in the future.
Yeah.
And the nation has become a massive borrower, both internally and externally. As we begin to take a look at the consequences of oil theft, I want us to begin to narrow down the consequences of oil theft. Of course, we've talked about it all round, black marketers, refineries, and the fact that the federal government should not only beam their light on black marketers or illegal refineries, because when you make the mathematics, it does not equate to the losses that we're having in that department. Now, in the first 9 months of 2023, Nigeria took $1.71 billion to boost a foreign exchange into the country. This is something that has continued. Recent estimation of losses in 2024 shows that the country has lost up to $3.57 billion to oil theft and pipeline vandalism in the first 5 months of the year. We're talking about the Tinubu administration now. Statistics or investigation or research, any which way we want to say it, says that in 2024, the country has lost up to $3.57 billion to oil theft and pipeline vandalism. And of course, the fact that the nation is still borrowing. We're still borrowing. And of course, the losses continues.
Okay.
So I want your reaction on this as we begin to take a look at the consequences of oil theft to the nation.
Thank you. I want you to look at it from my perspective. For this year, 2024, the year is halfway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. 3.57 billion what?
Million
Billion.
dollars. Let me take a look at my statistics again. My heartbeat is racing. It says it is billion.
Good. So 3.57 billion dollars lost. Probably as a result
5 months.
Yes.
Of 2024.
Yes.
To oil theft.
To oil theft. Look at the way I'm looking at it. If I had that 3.57 billion dollars with me, those dollars will surfeit the market. The exchange rate will not be where it is. I don't know if you get the
I'm getting
now, if you said some time ago the federal government went to borrow 1
billion US dollars.
Good.
In the first 9 months of 2023.
Good. Went to borrow. So would there have been need to go and borrow this money? That is why this issue, like I said, needs to be looked at very, very critically. Needs to be looked at very, very critically. What you cannot do alone, shout out, reach out to people. Please, I cannot do this thing alone. Come and help me. If it needs the federal government reaching out to the developed countries, the United States, the UK, that please come and help us. Let's see where this leakage is coming from. Consultancy service, one way. Give it to the right people. If we fail to do so, these losses will continue.
But we have oil companies that are from the United States that are in the system that, you know, we also believe that some or most of these oil companies are complicit in this situation that we have. Do you think if we bring someone, or like you suggested, to come take a look, we'll get the right statistics? Because again, Nigeria is a dynamic country where, I don't know, corruption is another problem that we have, because give and take, all that we've been saying so far is based on corruption.
Can I respond?
Please do.
Look, let me respond. Shell, British Royal Dutch Company. You are aware that is what Shell is. Chevron, America, United States of America. Okay? Mobil, also
United
States of America. The question I want to ask you, how many white men from the UK or Dutch that you see in Shell? At the stage, the federal government said, yes, you can come, but employ our people. Maybe 90% of them must be Nigerian. It's a fair policy for us. Who are those who are actually running the companies? Who are those at the export terminals? Are they the white officials? Most of them who are in the country, they are more or less technical, the technical aspect and administrative. You probably go to Chevron now. You will, for every 3 whites that you see, you probably would have seen 100 blacks. So it is our people. Like I earlier said, that we owe ourselves some level of patriotism. We owe ourselves some level of patriotism. I want to add this quickly, that our laws in Nigeria, I think, let me not use the word weak, they are humane. There are some countries in Asia, if you do these things, sometimes life imprisonment. China will kill you for it. I'm sure even the United States will do the same thing. Economic sabotage. But our laws, they are weak.
Why?
Security officers.
Let's take a look at these weak laws that you talk about. We are talking about the Commonwealth of the nation.
Yes.
The Commonwealth of the nation that is in the hands of just a select few. We spoke about the cabals on this show who run silently in the corridors of power to determine the fate of Nigerians on the long run, with the Commonwealth in the hands of just a few. We're talking about so much losses. My question is, what is the way forward as we round up on our discussion today?
The way forward, ma. I think objectivity. Most times we are not objective enough in our thinking and in our actions. As we are rounding up, refresh your mind that the immediate past petroleum minister had cases running into $9 billion US against her. You probably have heard that, and several others. Where did that money come from?
And where did it go?
So when you are talking of crude oil theft, crude oil this, you spread the dragnet, and you never know which big fish it will pull in. So it's pathetic, but when you said the way forward, in a way I have answered that question by saying that if this thing I cannot do it alone, reach out
to international community.
Yes, please come and help us. Let's look at
find out the leakage, where it's happening.
Yeah, where it's happening. I think Nigeria needs it, sincerely speaking. We need it. Like what you said, if the trend continues, I don't know how many barrels of crude oil Nigeria budgeted per day in production, which they probably put over, I don't know, 365 days to arrive at income that will come from crude oil sales for 2024. But if they are not meeting that quota, the obvious implication is the budget will be at a deficit. I don't know if you get the budget will be at a deficit. Yeah, I think the important thing where there is still some little succor or hope now is the crude oil sells for about $88 to a barrel today, and they probably benchmark their own at maybe 70 or 75. So the surplus on top can cushion. But if the trend continues, on the long run, we can have a deficit budget.
Well, time is never a friend on the show. I wish we could go on and on talking on this matter, but one thing I promise you is that we will continue on this trend to bring you stories as they happen in the nation. We'll bring stories that affect us as a people. We'll bring people who can talk about them and hope that one day we get the answers that we sought. This is how we end our discussion today. Our guest has been Dr. Edgar Amuho, who is a lecturer as well as a social analyst. Dr. Amuho has an MBA degree in addition to a PhD in chemistry. Our topic today, crude oil theft, black market and illegal refineries, effect or consequences on Nigeria's economy. We want to thank you so much for being our guest and hope to see you more on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, ma.
Well, this is where we'll draw the curtain on the show today. Do enjoy the rest of the day. My name is Anire Binitie. Bye for now.